I lost my job as a copywriter to AI.
But the topic of discussion is that I just lost my job, and I lost it to AI.
Everything is so expensive right now, and wages are not keeping up with the cost of living.
So the other day, my dear mother asked me about my plans for the future. What are you gonna do in 10 years? Do you still want to struggle financially in 10 years? Oh, then why aren't you doing anything about it? In her opinion, your median salary should raise every year, surpassing the inflation. And, well, my salary has not grown in the last couple of years, basically since the war in Ukraine has started, and we all just have been majorly fucked. And it's not only true for me, right? A lot of people are struggling to keep a job or find a job. I consider myself lucky to even have a job. Well, I don't really have a job, I'm a freelancer, but I have clients who still are working with me. And considering that I am a copywriter, I feel myself very lucky in that regard, because some people weren't that lucky. Some people were downsized and laid off because some not very smart marketers or executives, I don't know, think that an AI can write a good, well-researched and well-crafted article about complicated topics, which is not true. I think I'm kind of sort of lucky in my niche because I write about tech and it's considered like complicated, and it is complicated. So maybe that's the reason why I still have a few clients. I don't know. But before the war, my client base was expanding on a regular basis. I would get messages from recruiters on LinkedIn and like other websites and whatever, or just clients would recommend me to other companies. My portfolio of clients was expanding regularly, and that has stopped in the last 2 years. I haven't landed a new client in the last 2 years, hence my wages did not grow. And my mother is not an entitled boomer or Gen X who, had everything handed to them and had it a lot easier and could buy a house for 20 grand. And then she was born and raised in the Soviet era. So considering the timeline, she was among the most underprivileged people in the world. So even though she did not grow up with this, let's call it privilege for the sake of the argument, of working hard, making money, and then, having enough money to live, to buy a house, to buy a car, and whatever else your old boomers were able to afford back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. She did not have those privileges. She didn't have access to those. I mean, it was a communist country. But she still has this perception of the world that, you work hard, you focus on something, and then you will be rewarded for that, because it makes sense. That's what we all have been taught. Even outside of capitalistic regime, even in communism, people still kind of have this idea of, if I study hard, if I apply myself, if I grow my skill portfolio, eventually I will get there. I will be able to pay for all my basic stuff and hopefully eventually purchase a real estate property, whether it's a house, an apartment, or whatever. That did not happen to her. That did not happen to me. That is not currently happening to many people, right? People with degrees, people who did everything right, people who studied, IT, people who studied business, marketing, whatever, right? I'm not talking about like those art degrees, although I think that if an art degree is something that you can possibly acquire, you also should be able to like use it, but whatever. But even we're talking about like data-oriented, data-driven industries, that are supposed to guarantee you a job if you were a decent student, people struggle. People struggle in the US, in Europe, in, I don't know, in Russia, in Mexico, everywhere. So the world has changed, and it has changed so quickly that we haven't really like caught up to it, and it is continuing to change with AI and other emerging and non-emerging technologies. So in the eyes of our parents, largely we are lazy and spoiled, and we don't want to apply ourselves, we don't want to work hard. So Gen Z and millennials just don't want to work.
The problem is the purpose of a job is supposed to pay for you to be able to afford to live, and that's just not the case anymore. People in my generation who went to college, who did everything they were supposed to do, worked hard in school, went to a good college, graduated with their degree, yada yada, got their first job, and they can't afford to live.
So the wages aren't keeping up with the rising cost of living, and that's happening pretty much everywhere. I'm right now in Mexico. Mexico is going through gentrification. It's our turn now, and the housing prices are absolutely batshit crazy right now. In like central areas where most people would want to live because, access to whatever they want, because it's safe, the prices are like nearing US prices, and not like Nebraska and North Carolina, like California US prices. Like $2,000 for an apartment is not really shocking. I mean, it's shocking, but it's not, I was very lucky to get a small studio in like a nice neighborhood over 2 years ago, and I've been looking to find a different place, a bigger place, but I can't. Like everything within my budget is either like super far away, or it's the same tiny studio apartment, and then what's the point of moving, Plus, I'm an immigrant, so I don't really get any like social, benefits and whatever you're all getting in the US and Canada, Germany, and so on. I'm not eligible to any of those because my government sucks. My government is the Russian government. And they're not gonna help me like ever. This is just not their priority. Military complex is their priority. So I understand her worries, because if I don't help myself, no one will. So why don't you just find a better job? Why is it so hard to quote unquote find another job or study something different right now? I mean, obviously the high cost of education and job shifts in general, because not only will you have to work less in order to study, you're also spending money on said studies, and then after you're done, you're getting an entry-level job. So for the next like 5 to 7 years, you're gonna be struggling financially a lot more than you are struggling currently. But that's the reality that's always existed. That is nothing new. The new variable is, of course, artificial intelligence. The discussion around artificial intelligence is absolutely bonkers. I am not an AI developer. Everything I know is like very like theoretical, I guess, stuff, because I've written about AI capabilities in the past. Like I have a general understanding of what it does, and how it works and how it is being trained, but I don't know the potential capacity. I don't know the ceiling of this technology, just because I'm not in AI development. And I feel like even people who are in AI development currently may not actually know where the ceiling is, because if you listen to some experts, they'll say that, you just continue to feed it more and more and more data, and it will just exponentially grow and get better and better. And some people say that that's not necessarily true. There's been like a study released that says that it is completely possible, it is actually likely that in the beginning, it did grow exponentially, but then it kind of like staggering. And yeah, you can add a lot more data, but the growth isn't gonna be that much. I'm gonna put a graph here somewhere because so will AI or potentially AGI outsmart us and take all our jobs soon? I don't know. But even if it's all false promises, like literally all of it, and like ChatGPT is the best we can do in the next like few decades, people are already getting laid off. So it kind of doesn't really matter if, you know, the cat is dead or not, because the implications already happening whether or not the underlying issue is truthful or not. And there are some professions that are potentially safe from being, you know, replaced by AI, like, I don't know, doctors, right? Like, I don't think a cardiologist is going to be replaced by AI anytime soon. Maybe eventually, but like not tomorrow, not next year, because of just the amount of like regulations and protocols the doctors need to follow. It's a lot. It's going to take a systemic change, and that takes years to implement. But I'm not gonna become a doctor, and even if I were to decide to become a doctor, it'll take me like 10 years, and by then AI might actually already replace some of them. So it's just, we're living in this like puzzle piece that I'm trying to solve, but I'm failing because I don't know what's true and what's not, and I don't know where to go from here, because the world is changing very quickly and no one can really answer our questions. No one can say what exactly is going to happen because nobody knows. And of course there's manual labor, so soon enough we'll be fighting for plumbing and hairdressing jobs. But then again, it's also skills. Like, it's not like you just become a hairdresser. It's a skill that a lot of people have already acquired. We haven't. I haven't. So I'm gonna lose in this competitive market. It's like the more you think about it, the more discouraged and hopeless you get. It's just this dark void of just self-loathing and self-doubt and fear. And how do you make sense of any of it? How do you make decisions when there's so many variables? So I'm left hopeless and discouraged. There are numerous Reddit threads, YouTube videos, TikTok videos, blog posts of people, of millennials and Gen Zs sharing the same emotions, right? Of feeling hopeless and lost and not knowing what to do about their future. A lot of people are talking about Gen Zs having given up completely and just not even trying to engage in like the business world or really in the job market. For the most part, they're having mindset of just kind of living and enjoying yourself as much as you can. So when my mom asked me that question, I didn't know how to answer. She said that it feels like you're coming up with all those excuses, like you're stuck. And I am stuck because we're all kind of stuck. Well, at least a lot of us. I mean, she is also struggling to find a job or to keep a job, and her salary has decreased. We're all struggling right now. I'm completely frozen at the thought of my future, of the thought of making a decision. So like a good girl, I'm just not making any decisions because that's an option. Eventually, I'm probably gonna lose my job unless AI completely flops and like nothing comes out of it. Eventually, I will most likely lose my job. I don't know what to do about it. And I am also extremely scared about that path that we are taking towards the utopian future, because even if you completely buy into the, utopian future of the AI equipped world, the path there is still gonna be long and rocky and bloody and messy. That happened through every technological revolution every time. Yeah, at the end, we did make our lives better. We did like better the humanity, I guess, although even that is arguable. But the road to that was never a fun time. It was always a lot. CGP Grey is a creator who made actually a video about it 9 years ago, which is absolutely mind-boggling. 9 years ago, I didn't even think about AI, or I was in college studying some bullshit. Anyways, and he makes this reference, an analogy with horses, right? Like horses were all employed, I guess. And like imagine, two horses having a conversation, and the beginning of this last century saying that, technology will create new jobs for us. We'll be fine. And then, car industry is like, how many billions now?
Imagine a pair of horses in the early 1900s talking about technology. One worries all these new mechanical muscles will make horses unnecessary. The other reminds him that everything so far has made their lives easier. Remember all that farm work? Remember running from coast to coast delivering mail? Remember riding into battle? All terrible. These new city jobs are pretty cushy, and with so many humans in the cities, there will be more jobs for horses than ever. Even if this car thingy takes off, he might say, there will be new jobs for horses we can't imagine.
And horses, yeah, some of them do have jobs, I guess. There's like, you can ride a horse in the park, or you can go to, are there horses in the zoo? There's no horses in the zoo, are they? No. Where can you, circus maybe? I don't know. For the most part, horses are unemployed. There are a lot fewer of them. And we take care of them and all, and we keep them fat. We train some of them. They're fine. But I'm not sure I want to become this horse in the near future. I don't want, AI overlords to keep me fat and trained and semi-happy while they're making all of my decisions for me. That does not really sound very appealing to me. And of course, the consequence of that kind of life is the movie Idiocracy, right? The movie about the future. I mean, it was like 500 years in the future, but whatever. It was the future where no one is competent anymore to really do anything.
Hey, how's that essay?
Yeah, right. Well, not so good. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm seeing things. I think it might be because of these drugs the Army put me on. But if you could just get me well enough to get back to base.
Right. Kick ass. Well, don't want to sound like a dick or nothing, but it says on your chart that you're fucked up. You talk like a fag, and your shit's all retarded. What I do is just like you know what I mean? Like,
when I watched this movie for the first time, I thought it was such a dumb movie, but I actually think about it pretty often recently, because if AI goes where it goes, I think that kind of is our future. I mean, what else can happen? Yeah, some people will still keep up, and they will still have like this thirst and this thirst for knowledge and this curiosity, and they will still, read and research and do, whatever they want to do. But the most part, we're all just gonna be entertained endlessly, and I'm not looking forward to that future at all. According to this study, the science of hope is a very important asset in a workplace for both employees and employers. Studies have shown that hopeful employees receive better performance evaluation, they generate more efficient and creative solutions, and engage in career growing practices. In other words, having hope is fucking important. However you think about the future, whether AI is real, whether it's not real, whether it's good, whether it's bad, every scenario still feels like a bad scenario, at least for the foreseeable future, because we have no idea what's going to happen in 10 years. So I'm only talking about the next couple of years, right? People will continue losing jobs, even if AI is BS, and even if it's not BS, and there is some sort of utopian future where no one has to work and everyone gets UBI, the path there, it's still very scary. So either option is just a bad option. There is no good options anymore. So have we actually been sold a lie? Is technology actually a good or bad? And I work in tech, right? I write about tech, so I like tech, obviously. I do think it's fascinating what's happening, and just the capabilities, just what we can do as human beings is absolutely incredible. But has it actually made our lives a lot better? And when I say technology, I don't mean just like the fact that we invented computers. I mean the last maybe like 10 years with, social media, with crypto, NFT, blockchain, Internet of Things, big data, all those buzzwords that were supposed to make our lives significantly better, and kind of didn't. Sometimes they even made it worse, especially, crypto and NFT. All these technologies are being used in, for real use cases, but they have been overhyped when they first emerged. And now Gen Zs, who's the most tech-savvy generation, who grew up with like iPad in their hands, are feeling nostalgic about the time when they weren't even born. Some of them express jealousy towards millennials and people who are older, because they got to have like this childhood, just regular childhood, without social media, without TikTok, without smartphones. I mean, I had that childhood. I'm 31, so I had a normal childhood. I got my first smartphone when I was 19. So I get that, but I never realized that people feel this way, because you can't really be nostalgic about the time that you did not experience, that you didn't live through. So it's a very interesting concept to me, but apparently a lot of them do feel this way. I get that. It's very hard to growing up with social media. I can't imagine. Like, social media was supposed to like bond us together and connect us with, people across the world, but it didn't really do that. It just turned into like a marketing tool. And now Silicon Valley VCs are investing into AI, heavily investing, so much. It is definitely turning into a bubble, which again does not mean that it's a bad technology. It doesn't mean that there's nothing underneath, right? But it is a bubble, and it will eventually burst. And how would that affect us? Nobody knows. So will the companies, AI companies, actually deliver on their promises? Will they be able to deliver on their promises? Obviously, there's no way to tell that right now. But if we look back at history of the last few years, almost all of them have lied in one way or the other. Almost a lot of them have faked or altered their demos to sell a product that does not really exist in the form that they're presenting it. There are already kind of AI scams out there, like this rabbit AI toy that just is complete BS. There's no AI underneath it. I mean, there's ChatGPT, but besides that, there's no custom LLM. There's nothing. It's just hard code and access to ChatGPT to give you like generic BS answers, and it can't really do anything. And in the world where businesses are driven by profit, it's no wonder that that's where we are. Obviously, I'm not going to sound very original when I say capitalism bad, but capitalism bad. It is actively making our lives worse for everyone. Because if companies weren't driven by profit, they wouldn't have to lie I mean, have to lie. Investors wouldn't have to invest into, the big buzzword, and we wouldn't have to buy into their BS and mistrust them. So yeah, it's all kind of capitalism's fault, but I don't want to take accountability from everyone else. It's a lot of people's fault. Like OpenAI is a company that started as a non-profit organization with a mission to create a safe AI and better humanity. And a lot of people, a lot of investors, that was like way before AI hype, right? So investors invested into OpenAI because it was nonprofit and because it was promising to create safe and ethical AI. And once it grew to a certain point where it could actually like show something and like impress a lot of non-tech people who are like, oh my god, a machine is talking to me, all of a sudden they're for profit now. And we're supposed to trust that Sam Altman is our Lord and Savior, and has our interests in mind. Come, girl. Or Elon fucking Musk. Come on. I mean, the guy who signed the open letter to halt the development of AI because we need to think about the implications and ethical and then he just created his own AI company. I don't trust any of them. Neither should you. I don't know. No, really, I have no idea. I don't have a conclusion to all of this. I wanted to make this to answer my own questions, to maybe get some clarity, but I didn't. So the next best idea is maybe, get it out there and maybe hear some feedback from other people who are struggling the same way I'm struggling. The only thing I can say is that, if you are willing to learn AI development, then go ahead, because there's probably decent future in it. If not, hope for the best. Enjoy your life as much as you can, right? Just focus on something you actually like doing. I have my art, even though nobody cares about it, it makes me happy, so it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, money doesn't make you happy. Life is not about making money. Life is is an experience, and there's no end goal, right? I mean, unless you're religious and maybe you have an end goal tethered to your religion. I'm not religious. I'm not really that spiritual either. So for me, it's just, you're born, you live, you die. As maybe pragmatic as it sounds, that's how I feel. I can't help it. So it's like an experience, right? You're on this earth for some amount of time, you don't know how long, and you kind of decide what you do with that time. If you want to make a lot of money for some reason, then okay, go ahead. But if it's not something you actually want, it's just something that you feel pressured to do because of the society, then don't. Fuck that. Just find whatever brings you the most joy and focus on that, and everything else. I'm trying to say there's no stakes, right? Again, I'm talking to people who are not religious, because otherwise I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. But if you're not religious, there's no stakes, right? There's no hell, there's no heaven. You just kind of live your life. You try to be, a decent human being because that's just our moral compass somewhere tells us to, or conscious, I guess, tells us to, be better, make people happy as much as you can, of course, and just focus on what you like and what you are good at, and what brings you joy. And the money thing is, of course, is very concerning. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to struggle financially for the rest of my life. I'm not really driven by money. I don't really care about making billions, but I don't want to struggle. I mean, who wants to struggle? But at the same time, I can bring myself to care, and I don't really know why. Maybe because it has always kind of magically worked out for me, but I understand that that's just luck. So you shouldn't really count on luck. If you got lucky once, you shouldn't just assume that you'll always get lucky. Plus, there's also age, and once you get older, it gets harder. So I don't know. I obviously don't have any answers. I just have more questions. And let me know what you think. Let me know about all of your anxiety about the next couple of years and how you handling this, because I'm not handling it well.